of print documents and non-print documents. ICT and its applications have also revolutionized the whole component of library service. Today when I look at library, I find it's a different world, because today we think of a library in terms of internet, in terms of digitization, but the essential component is that the institution exists primarily to provide service. If somebody asks me what is the definition of a library, I'll say the main function of a library is one, and that is service, service, service.
That's very beautifully put.
And then, after independence, certainly there have been many changes. Today, we look at a library and we organize the library under different categories like academic libraries, which are something like school libraries, college libraries, university libraries, research libraries. And then we have public libraries, which are meant for general public. Actually, I call a public library to be something like a people's university. This was the definition given by a great American scholar, Alvin Johnson, that they exist only for the people, to be organized by the people, to be funded by the people. It is in that context then we have special libraries. For example, you have a library in Doordarshan organization, it will be called a special library. It will have its own clientele, it will have its own category of documents. So this is how broadly we have tried to look at the whole concept of library science and library services, that they acquire documents depending on the need of the users and give the service. And the libraries get organized in the different categories: academic libraries, special libraries, and also public libraries.
So you mentioned Doordarshan. Doordarshan also has a special library, or a treasure trove really of archival material, which is visual material.
Yes,
that has also been categorized as a library.
I will categorize that library as a special library, because a special library is a library which has special category of collection.
Right.
It could be manuscripts, it could be archival material, and then a special category of clientele, which are primarily maybe researchers in the field of Doordarshan, in communication, and that way we tried only for an overall view of the library system in the world. Otherwise, there is no hard and fast rule. A public library, for example, has a children library, which has a special collection, which has a special clientele, and something nearer to being a special library. But in order to have an overview, we have started looking at them under different categories like academic libraries, special libraries, and public libraries.
अच्छा, जिस समय की हम आपकी बात कर रहे हैं, when you were in college in the early 50s, mid 50s, तब लाइब्रेरी साइंसेज, एज यू सेड, तो होती नहीं थी. लाइब्रेरीज होती थी, एक लाइब्रेरियन होता था, आप उससे कार्ड लिया और पूछ लेते थे कि कौन सी बुक किस शेल्फ में पड़ी है. What is it about libraries that drew you towards becoming a professional in this field?
See, first of all, it's interesting to mention that I entered this profession primarily because I was a user of a public library.
I see.
In one of the states in Punjab. And whenever I used to pass
by... This was in Nava or in
Kalsi? It was a central state library in Nava. And whenever I used to pass by that library, I was always attracted, and when I entered the library, I found the librarian, who was a qualified, not highly qualified, but well qualified retired man from the defense services. And he was busy in reading books and acquiring books and communicating with the users. So all of a sudden I started thinking that since I have a great interest in reading, and that's an area where I will feel very happy if I join this profession. And that is how my interest in libraries and library profession started. When I entered the profession and did my postgraduate diploma, I had done only a graduate degree. At that time, I had not done my master's degree. And I had to choose a university in India at that time. I found there were 5 universities in the country which were running a library science course. And I found Delhi University was the nearest to my place in Punjab. But the difficulty was that how to get into the university.
Because it's difficult even in those days.
Even in those days, getting admission in library science courses was extremely difficult. And I was strongly recommended about Delhi University because one of the greatest, as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Ranganathan was a professor there. But somehow the other Pakistan government deputed me. I got the admission, did my diploma, which is something like a bachelor's degree in library science today, and that is how I qualified. After that, I worked for some time in a public library, but I felt that to be a library professional, one must be academically trained. Because you have to communicate with users, you have to deal with books, you have to deal with material. If you do not understand the subjects, you will not be a competent man. So I again became a student for my master's degree. I came back to Punjab and joined my master's degree in history from Mangla College, Patiala. And after that, qualifying for the master's degree, I got a job in a government college in Nabha. And that is how I started teaching history. While teaching history, all of a sudden I found that the Government of India has started an Institute of Library Science in Delhi University. They advertised the post for teachers in library science. And at that time there was hardly any master's degree course in library science in the country except in Delhi University earlier. I applied for the job, got selected as a lecturer in library science. Sometime in 1961, I got selected as a Rockefeller Foundation scholar to join Columbia University. When I was a student of history, I thought I will study further only at a university like Oxford or Cambridge.
Right.
But when I had joined library science, Columbia University was the university which was the first university in the world to have started library science. And at that time, to join Columbia University was a matter of great prestige because the teachers were very, very highly well qualified. And luckily, I got admission in Columbia University. I joined Columbia University. Then many of people who were not happy earlier that I am shifting from government job to a university, they were satisfied. They felt that now I have got a profession which is quite all right.
While you were in Columbia, you also became the president of the IFLA, which you were the first Asian.
That was much, much later.
That was later.
Because I came back from Columbia, rejoined because I was on leave from Delhi University, and started teaching again in Delhi University, and then got promoted as a reader and professor, which are called today associate professor and professor. I like to mention that I fall in that category where I became a professor at a very young age, almost something like a record in Delhi University.
That is what I was trying to ask you. You were hardly in your early 30s when you became the professor.
When I became a reader, I was around 30. When I became professor, I was around 35, 36. But in between, sometime in 1970, I got selected for an assignment in Iran to establish a department of library and information science at one of the universities, Tabriz universities. I stayed there for about 2 years, came back to Delhi University. I was still having my job in Delhi University, became professor in Delhi University. And the government of Iran, they were not happy that they got me sanctioned for 1 year, because university rules never permitted that a man should go back when they are having someone working for their assignment. And they wrote to the government of India. And again I had to go back sometime in 1974, worked there for about a year and came back. And then later on my job in Delhi University continued. I became Dean of the Faculty of Arts at a very young age, sometime in 1976. Certainly, for the first time, a professor of library science becoming a dean, not only in Delhi University but in the country as a whole. That was a great achievement.
That was a huge achievement, Professor sir.
A very big achievement, and I remember that others also took some time to believe that a professor of library science could become a dean.
Yeah.
But after a very short time, it became easier for me to communicate with them, and acceptance was not a problem. So later on, not only dean, but I became chairman of research board of Delhi University, which had, in those days, 5 faculties under its jurisdictions with about 30 postgraduate departments for their research studies. And I was the chairman for about almost 5 years.
That's quite
And in between, I got an assignment, and that assignment was as an expert of UNESCO. Went to a country which is almost at a very long distance in Southern America, and that was Guyana.
We'll talk about your sojourn to Guyana, but before that, let's take a short break. We'll be right back after this break.
क्योंकि 6 महीने से पहले कुछ और खिलाया पिलाया तो हो जाएगा।
Our guest today is the eminent Professor of Library Sciences, Professor P.P. Mangla. Professor sir, before we went into the break, we talked about your sojourn in Guyana. What was that like?
See, Guyana, as you know, is again one of the countries which was under the control of British colonial system.
Right.
And they wanted to have some program to educate and give orientation to the library professionals. So they invited me as an expert to organize the program and worked there for about 8 to 9 months. And it was a great experience for me.
Coming back to India, one of the most prestigious aspects of a very distinguished career has been the Tagore Fellowship. Tell us something about that.
Sometime in 2010,
Right.
the Ministry of Culture, they decided to celebrate the 150th birth anniversary of Rabindranath Tagore. And it is at that time the Ministry of Culture decided that among other ways to celebrate his birth anniversary, there could be one thing, and that could be to institute a fellowship for eminent people in different professions which come under the purview of the Ministry of Culture. Subjects like archaeology, archives, museum.
What was your subject?
And in the field of library science, public libraries were under the overall jurisdiction of the Ministry of Culture.
Right.
And even the National Library Calcutta is one of the institutions under the Ministry of Culture. So then this is how the field of libraries came under the purview of Ministry of Culture for this purpose. And I was selected for this, and I was assigned a topic that was something to study about the public library's service in Delhi, to study its present situation and to think about its future development plan. And I submitted the report sometime in 2013. And it is at that time that this fellowship, which is again a matter of prestige, because highest fellowship one can think about in the country even today. And I feel very happy to say that I was selected for this, offered this fellowship, and till today I am the only one in the field of library and information science who have been honored with this. Committee of which I was a member to make national policy on library and information services in the country. And that report, which is called NAPLIS report, was submitted in '86. When in 2005, Government of India with people took a lot of interest in the Ministry of Education at that time. They appointed a National Knowledge Commission. And one of the committees of which I was again a member was on libraries. We gave a report, and as the result of that report today, we have National Mission on Libraries in the country, where the effort is to organize a movement for development of libraries and library services in the country. But one thing which I want to mention, which you have mentioned rightly, that what are the prospects? With the passage of time, the library professionals who are well educated, properly qualified, they have been equated at par with the academic staff and the scientists in their respective organization. It was with all our efforts that we succeeded. It was started by Dr. Banganathan to give them proper status. Later on, I was myself associated with various committees where we maintained that library professionals should be treated as academic staff because they are communicating with the teacher and the students community in the field of information and knowledge. And in the field of scientific world also, they have been given status. So certainly the trend has been to attract people who are interested in academic world to work in the field of library science. It will be interesting to mention the only university at that time which was conducting the master's degree course in library science was Delhi University. And this was the only university, not only in India, but in the whole of British Commonwealth, which was running a master's degree course, started by Dr. Banganathan. Sometime in 1956, the first PhD was awarded in library science from Delhi University. So there was at that time limited facility, but today the number of universities and number of courses in the profession.
We'll be right back after this break.
ಇದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್, ಇದು ಪಿ ಇಚ್ಕೊಲ್ ಟು ಪಿ. ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಓದ್ತೀರಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಂಬರ್ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ತೆಳಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಹಿಂಗೆ ಇಟ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗಲತ್ತೈತೆ. ಹಿಂಗೆ ರೆಡ್ ಬಟನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಡ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ನಿಮಗಿದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು. ಮತ್ತು ಅದು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಟಪ್ ಅಂತ ಇದು ಓದ್ತೀರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಯಿತು. ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್
ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದೇ ಅದಾದರೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ.
Subject. He should not only be just a talk